War is more than just tanks and missiles. It's a battle for hearts and minds. And in this battle, language is a powerful weapon. Russia knows this. They've weaponized words to control the narrative around their invasion of Ukraine. They're fighting a propaganda war alongside a military one. This isn't new. Governments have always used language to shape public opinion during wartime. What's different now is the speed and reach of information. With social media, propaganda can spread like wildfire. This isn't just about words, it's about the stories those words create. It's about shaping how people see the world. And in the case of Russia's war in Ukraine, it's about distorting reality and justifying the unjustifiable. Let's start with the obvious. Russia calls its invasion of Ukraine a special military operation. This is Orwellian doublespeak at its finest. Imagine calling a hurricane a bit of wind, or a five-alarm fire a controlled burn. That's essentially what Russia is doing. Why use such sanitized language? Because war is a loaded word. It evokes images of death, destruction, and displacement. It forces people to confront the brutal reality of what's happening, and that's exactly what Putin wants to avoid. By calling it a special military operation, Russia tries to downplay the severity of its actions. It's an attempt to make the invasion more palatable to its own citizens and the international community. Propaganda often relies on dehumanizing the enemy. This tactic has been used throughout history, from ancient times to modern conflicts. By portraying the enemy as less than human, it becomes easier to justify acts of violence and aggression against them. This method strips away the individuality and humanity of the people on the other side, reducing them to mere symbols of evil or danger. And Russia's war in Ukraine is no exception. The conflict has been marked by a relentless propaganda campaign aimed at dehumanizing Ukrainians. This is not just a battle fought with weapons, but with words and images designed to manipulate perceptions and emotions. One of the Kremlin's favorite tactics is to label Ukrainians as neo-Nazis. This accusation is not only baseless but also deeply offensive, especially considering Ukraine's own history and the diverse backgrounds of its people. The use of such inflammatory labels is intended to evoke strong emotional reactions and justify aggressive actions. This is despite the fact that Ukraine's president, Volodymyr Zelensky, is Jewish and lost family members in the Holocaust. The irony is stark and highlights the absurdity of the propaganda. Zelensky's heritage and personal history stand in direct contradiction to the Kremlin's narrative. This narrative plays on historical fears and prejudices. By invoking the specter of Nazism, the propaganda seeks to tap into deep-seated anxieties and historical traumas. It's a calculated move to manipulate public opinion and rally support for the war effort. It's a cynical attempt to paint Ukrainians as the aggressors, as if they somehow provoked Russia's invasion. This inversion of reality is a common propaganda technique, designed to confuse and mislead. By casting the victim as the villain, the aggressor seeks to absolve themselves of responsibility. Then there's the derogatory term ukrop, a slang word for dill, a popular herb in Ukrainian cuisine. This seemingly innocuous term has been weaponized to belittle and demean Ukrainians. It's a subtle yet insidious form of dehumanization, reducing a people to a single trivial characteristic. It's meant to be dismissive, to reduce Ukrainians to a caricature. Such stereotypes are powerful tools in the arsenal of propaganda, as they simplify complex human beings into easily digestible and often negative images. This makes it easier to foster hatred and justify mistreatment, but like many insults, it's backfired. Instead of demoralizing the Ukrainian people, it has galvanized them. The term ukrop has been embraced and transformed into a symbol of resistance and pride. This act of reclamation is a powerful statement against the forces of dehumanization. Ukrainians have reclaimed the term, wearing it as a badge of honor. This defiance in the face of derogatory language is a testament to their resilience and unity. It shows that even the most insidious forms of propaganda can be turned on their head. It's a way of saying you may try to belittle us, but we won't be defined by your hate. This spirit of defiance and self-respect is a powerful counter to the dehumanizing tactics of propaganda. It underscores the strength and dignity of the Ukrainian people in the face of adversity. Ukrainians haven't taken Russia's propaganda lying down. They've fought back with creativity, humor, and a healthy dose of defiance. Take the word bavovna, which means cotton in Ukrainian. It sounds similar to the Russian word for explosion. Now Ukrainians use bavovna to describe explosions on Russian soil, mocking the Kremlin's attempts to downplay its losses. This linguistic resistance is about more than just words. It's about reclaiming the narrative. It's about showing the world that Ukrainians refuse to be silenced or intimidated. They're fighting back with every weapon at their disposal, including language. Section 5. From Battlefield to Everyday Life. Wartime language in Russian society. The language of war doesn't stay confined to the battlefield. It infiltrates homes, schools, and workplaces, subtly altering the way people perceive reality. It seeps into everyday life, shaping how people talk about the conflict and its consequences. Conversations in cafes, discussions at dinner tables, and even casual chats on the street are tinged with the rhetoric of war. In Russia, terms like special military operation and denazification have become commonplace. These terms are not just words. They carry with them a heavy load of state-sanctioned narratives and justifications. They're repeated ad nauseum on state-controlled media, becoming part of the official lexicon. This repetition is a deliberate strategy to ingrain these terms into the public consciousness. This constant bombardment of propaganda has a numbing effect. Over time, people become desensitized to the language of war, accepting it as a normal part of their daily lives. It normalizes the abnormal, making it easier for people to accept the unacceptable. The language of war becomes a background hum, barely noticed, but always present. The Kremlin's censorship machine has also worked overtime to silence dissent. Any deviation from the official narrative is swiftly and harshly dealt with. Independent media outlets have been shut down, and those who dare to speak out against the war face harsh penalties. Journalists are arrested and newsrooms are emptied, leaving a void where independent voices once were. In this environment of fear and repression, language itself becomes a tool of control. People are careful about what they say and how they say it, knowing that their words could have serious consequences. The language of war, thus, becomes a means of maintaining power and suppressing opposition. Section 6. The Global Echo Chamber, Spreading the Kremlin's Narrative. Russia's propaganda machine doesn't stop at its own borders. It reaches out to a global audience using social media, state-funded news outlets like RT and Sputnik, and a network of sympathetic voices to spread its narrative. They target specific demographics, tailoring their message to exploit existing divisions and grievances. For example, they might play up anti-NATO sentiment in Western countries or appeal to anti-colonial sentiments in the global South. This disinformation campaign aims to sow confusion, undermine trust in Western institutions, and create a climate of uncertainty where Russia's actions seem less outlandish. It's a sophisticated operation that exploits the openness and interconnectedness of the digital age. Section 7. Beyond euphemisms, manipulating history and international law. Russia's language of war goes beyond euphemisms and propaganda terms. It delves into a more insidious realm where the past is rewritten and the present is justified through a distorted lens. The Russian state media and political speeches are meticulously crafted to shape public perception and international opinion. It involves manipulating history and twisting international law to fit its narrative. History textbooks are edited to reflect a version of events that supports the Kremlin's agenda, while international legal documents are selectively interpreted to justify aggressive actions. Putin has repeatedly invoked the legacy of World War II, claiming that Russia is fighting against Nazism in Ukraine. This narrative is designed to evoke strong emotional responses and rally domestic support by drawing on the collective memory of the Great Patriotic War. This is a cynical attempt to draw a false equivalence between the horrors of the Holocaust and Russia's own aggression. By doing so, the Kremlin seeks to legitimize its military actions and paint its adversaries in the darkest possible light. Russia also uses legalistic language to justify its actions. Politicians and state officials frequently reference international law, but their interpretations are often skewed to serve their own purposes. This legal manipulation is a key component of their strategy. It claims that its invasion of Ukraine was necessary to protect the rights of Russian speakers in the Donbas region. This justification is presented as a humanitarian intervention, but it masks the true intent of territorial expansion and control. This is a blatant distortion of international law which prohibits the use of force against another state's territorial integrity. The international community must recognize these tactics for what they are: a calculated effort to undermine global norms and reshape the geopolitical landscape in favor of Russian interests. Section 8. The power of language shaping perceptions, justifying actions. Russia's language of war is a stark reminder of the power of words. Language can be used to shape perceptions, justify actions, and ultimately influence the course of events. By controlling the narrative, Russia aims to control the outcome of the war. They want to create a reality where their aggression is seen as a necessary response, where their victims are blamed for their own suffering. It's crucial to recognize and call out this manipulation. We must be vigilant in identifying propaganda, challenging false narratives, and amplifying the voices of those who are resisting Russia's aggression. Section 9. Conclusion. Unmasking the language of war. The war in Ukraine is a stark reminder that words can be weapons. Russia's use of euphemisms, propaganda, and historical revisionism is a deliberate attempt to distort reality and justify the unjustifiable. By understanding the language of war, we can better equip ourselves to resist its insidious effects. We can see through the fog of propaganda and recognize the truth, that this is a war of aggression, launched by a dictator against a sovereign nation, and we can stand in solidarity with the people of Ukraine who are fighting for their freedom and their future.
So hit that subscribe button, ring the bell for notifications, and let's turn the page on a new adventure together. Get ready to experience books like never before, only on VBook 360. Like, comment, and share to support the channel and keep the video magic alive. Thank you for stopping by. And remember, every video has a story, and every story deserves to be shared. See you in the next video.